What's up, guys? Welcome back to the WRPF podcast. I'm your host, Alex Uslar. Episode 55, picking right back up on our Meet Director series. Our next regional championships is coming up, the Mountain Regional Championships in Utah. Colin Sorensen is one of our meet directors, along with his wife, who wasn't able to join us. But here we have Colin. Thanks for hopping on, man. I appreciate your time. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Hell yeah, man. So the way we like to do this, we like to get to know our meet directors, then find out a little bit about the events, what they have going on with regionals, beyond regionals, and just kind of learn about powerlifting as a whole in their area and their region. The cool thing about this regionals that was just rolled out, as you guys know, this year with the WRPF, is it really unifies different areas of the United States, helps people become aware of meet directors, their events, brings them together, pulls them in from other states. And with Utah, with your area, I know a little bit about the backstory of how you guys came on. But before we get into that and use a meet director, kind of just give us your background. What were you doing before powerlifting? How did you find powerlifting personally?
Yeah, so I found powerlifting pretty late in my training career. I'd always been in gyms, played football. So from the age of like 14, I was in gyms all summer. That was just my life. Through high school, it's always what gave me confidence. Just the gym. It was basically my life. After high school, kind of went a little sideways, had a rough 20s for a couple of years there. And when I kind of want to get my life back together, it was like, let's get back to the gym and figure that out, and everything else will fall in place. And I did. And then through that, and I was kind of just training like a bodybuilder, basically just a meathead. I'd always just been a meathead, didn't even know powerlifting existed. I grew up in northern Utah. So powerlifting had no scene, really no social media at that point in time to even know it was a thing. But I came across a podcast, and I think it was a Mark Bell podcast, kind of talking about powerlifting. I was like, oh shit, this is like, there's actually something I can do with this. So from there, just became obsessed. Want to know all the different training methodologies, all the different periodization structures, just trying to figure everything out, trying to figure out where meets were, how this all worked out. Just became my life. And at that point, there were no gyms locally where I could really do this. It was all commercial gyms with one rack, bent barbells, no power bars, no squat bars. And as soon as I knew those things existed, I had to have it. So bumped into my garage, got enough equipment to everything that I could so that I could train, brought a friend over from the gym. That was my first real training crew. There was 3 of us. We were training in my garage. One of those training partners bumped off and started a powerlifting gym. It was the first one in northern Utah. And
when was this, more or less?
This was right around COVID, like 2000.
Okay.
2000, started the gym. And for me, it was really cool because we kind of like, we're starting a scene locally. There was nothing, like there's always something in Salt Lake, which is about 2 hours to the south of us, but there was nothing around us or for anybody that grew up here. So we were kind of starting at grassroots, and it was really cool. And around that time, I'd really fucked my back up, and I wasn't training much. So I'd moved really into like just trying to be friendly with people coming into the gym, bring them in, like introduce everybody, help people out, and kind of just like, that's what I did. And then through that, I was kind of doing a rehab, took about a year, getting my back in order until I could squat again. Then I got healthy enough, and I was prepping for a USPA meet that my friend was going to run, the gym owner. They were putting this meet together. It started as a WRPF meet, but the meet director that was doing that one, things kind of fell apart halfway through. So they scrambled, had to pick up a USPA meet director to put it together. And my wife had offered to help my friend that was putting the meet on, get this thing going, because it was starting to struggle. And so she kind of helped get to the finish line. I was competing in that one, so I had nothing to do with putting it on. And when the meet was over, she told both of us, like, hey, this was a lot of fun, but I think I could do this better. Like, I think there's a lot of areas.
Pause. Before we get into that meet directing portion, I'm more curious kind of the state of powerlifting. So leading up to that meet, your friend opened that gym, right?
Yes.
So 2 hours from Salt Lake. Powerlifting, like you said, was kind of non-existing there. But 2020, I mean, powerlifting was already an emergent. So how much growth did you guys kind of see in that city? Is it something that, started really picking up? Was this a powerlifting specific gym? And was that meet like looking to be a big success, kind of leading into it?
Yeah. So before that, this was the first powerlifting specific gym in the area. Everything was commercial gyms up to that point. There were a couple CrossFit gyms, but really just like the most commercial gyms you can imagine. There was not much of a scene at all. And when the gym started, it started just as a private place for there were like 8 of us training there. And we made the conscious decision, or he'd asked us all, like, hey, I think I want to like actually make this a powerlifting gym and not just have it be this private training facility for us and the crew that we were training with. We were all good with it because we wanted it to grow. And so like kind of from there to where the meet happened, the gym just kind of exploded. The local college had started a powerlifting club. They started coming down. So there were about 20, 30 college kids that came down and started training at the gym. It was a pretty healthy gym. There was, 45, 50 members there regularly. And so we thought the meet was going to be big because there'd never been one locally. Everybody had to travel to Salt Lake, which is not that big of a deal, but that barrier to entry, I think, keeps people out of the sport. And so we wanted to bring it local and just cut that out. And so the meet sold out within like 2-3 weeks, but then everything was kind of ruined because when the WRPF meet director split, then it had to become a new meet, open up a new registration for it, but it still managed to fill up. So it filled up twice, even with the roadblock.
Yeah, I remember seeing that all that happened, but it's also funny because I talk about this era with a lot of people of kind of that around COVID, pre-COVID, post-COVID, last 4 or 5 years of powerlifting and the absolute like tremendous growth of it. And specifically in like random rural areas, small towns, little cities where there was no powerlifting before. And if you would have tried to stamp a powerlifting gym there in 2016 or 2017, it would probably fail, right?
Yeah.
But I love hearing those kind of stories where it's like, go out on a ledge, give it a try. And again, that 2020, 2021 era of a time of powerlifting until today has been such a constant surgence, constant growth. And it's cool hearing that even in a an area where there was nothing before, where you can't try to give a better product and bring people over, things like colleges, all that got involved, and it's not surprising to hear either. You hear more and more stories of this now. Pretty much, you can open up a powerlifting gym in pretty much any town, and there's going to be some success. Powerlifting is becoming more and more of a household name, and it's someone who's been in it like myself over 10 years. It's fucking crazy to think because I never thought that. It's like something like CrossFit. When I was in CrossFit, I knew it was a fad. I saw it as a fad.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. It's like, nah, this is it's cool that it's here to stay. So you guys go into that meet, right? Even with all those, I remember seeing all that stuff, hearing all that stuff, having to assist with that stuff, the kind of disaster that was. The gym that you were part of, where you guys were at, it still happened. You still competed. Your wife got involved, and that's where you're like, man, we could do more with this. Obviously, it was everyone's first experience, your close friend who's the gym owner, etc. But you guys also had to, bring in a third party to, put on the event and just contribute in the ways that you contribute, and that got your brains running, right?
Yep. Because we just kind of wanted to cut out that third party because we saw kind of what they had done. And the job was fine, but we saw kind of we basically brought it up to the meet. And I think anybody that runs meets knows this, like the real headache's getting to the meet. Like once the meet starts, like you kind of, if you prepared properly, at least in our experience, you kind of step back a little bit. So she had gotten everything to meet day. And then at that point, she kind of stepped back and this meet director stepped in and ran the meet. And so we just kind of wanted to see it all the way through. We didn't want to hand it off to anybody. And she'd had a really good time doing it. She'd recently just stopped working to take care of our son. She had worked at a steel mill. She was head of safety out there. So she was good at coordinating. She was good at putting on events. So this was right in her wheelhouse.
Awesome. So then that kind of began the conversation, right? Both you guys getting involved in the WRPF. That was in this, I believe we started that conversation December of 2022.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So where did it go from there?
From there, we knew we wanted to do a meet. We set a date around May. We knew we needed to get some more training because at that point we kind of had seen what we wanted to do, but we also wanted to go to some other meet directors and see how they did things to make sure we weren't missing anything, to make sure we had all of our bases covered before we implemented any of the things we wanted to try out to see if there was a better way. So we flew out. to Vegas. We trained with Micah and Kay, got a lot of knowledge there. Kay was a giant help as far as lifting cast goes. Just all of the like nitty gritty of actually running the meet, just a huge help with that. We brought on Angelica and Jad Alam, Angelica Strong Shots. She's been to more meets than I think just about anybody out there.
She's
We
been
knew we
around a
wanted,
long time. Yeah, she's another OG.
so we knew we needed her to kind of just help us set the tone. We wanted these meets to be cool. You know, we were in rural Utah, we're in northern Utah, like that didn't matter. We still want to put on a cool production. And that was one of the big things that we'd seen. We didn't want it to be just a, you know, and we've ran these and there's nothing wrong with it, but we wanted to put on big productions and make the lifters feel special, especially when we're trying to grow this. We wanted it to be cool for people and then we wanted them to feel special. After that training, we flew out to South Bay Strength and trained with Ashley Contorno, who was a giant help, really helped us out with a lot of things, ironed out all of our plans. That was about 3 weeks before our first meet, just to make sure we had everything covered. And then from there, yeah, we had 3 weeks later was our first meet that was all us.
And I remember seeing some previews. Correct me if I'm wrong. You guys had like a pretty cool venue, right? Something with like it was like a
Yeah.
second story mezzanine and stuff like that. So first meet, you guys, like you said, went all out, right? So
Yeah.
give me a little bit of those details. Let the people know kind of what that venue was like and some of the things that you guys brought to the table in this first competition running of your own.
Yeah. So when we went to run this meet, we wanted it to be at a cool venue. We wanted to kind of copy some of and emulate some of the things that we had seen. We trained with Micah. His meets are definitely dark lights, like it's flashy, it's cool. We'd been to Ashley's meet, you know, kind of a gym meet, really cool though, lots of banners, high energy. We wanted to incorporate all of this plus other things we'd seen. So we found this venue, and it's basically just a giant movie production company where they film. So they've got tons of lights. They've got a second story to get shots from for really good photos, really good video. It was kind of jam packed, which is what we wanted because it wasn't huge, but we could pack 150 people in there and just make it feel like you were important. And that's what we wanted, so that the crowd was all around you. It didn't feel like you were lifting in an empty space, which is something that, you know, come across at a lot of meets. Is it just, there are these big venues that just feel empty. We
Right.
didn't want that. We wanted to kind of combine high production with kind of like a garage feel of just pack everybody in there.
Nice. So first one in the books was good, right?
Yes, it
Everyone
went
had a
great.
good time. So where did it go beyond there? Continuing to run those, and then how did the conversation for regionals kind of begin?
So from there, we wanted to get outside of just northern Utah. We kind of wanted to spread throughout the state because we were WRPF Utah. We didn't want to just be in this one area. Salt Lake was pretty well covered with USPA, APF. The USAPL had just started. So we went a little bit further south into Utah County. We found a gym to partner with down there. We started to plan our next meet. And this was kind of, you know, a big test for us too, to see as traveling meet directors to leave kind of our gym with our friends, our equipment, and kind of go out and collaborate with someone else, put that meet on, which was a huge success. One of the gym owners from there had trained under Garrett, and Garrett had set up a situation to use their Ghost Mono for regionals or for nationals last year. And so we ended up being the ones that drove that out to nationals, helped out there,
Ooh, that
kind of
sounds
got
like
to,
fun.
yeah. we we dragged a monolift in a trailer with a forerunner. We go 45 miles an hour on the freeway. It turned like an 8-hour drive into 14 hours. It was a blast.
Yeah, yeah, and not to mention those ghost monos weigh like
Oh yeah.
over 1,000 pounds. It's
Oh
it's
yeah.
absurd, absurd.
It was a fun drive. Um, so we got there, got to meet everybody. Within this time, Ashley Contorno had kind of reached out. We'd become good friends with her. And she'd wanted Erica to help her with regionals, and she wanted to do it in Utah. And so the meet actually started with was going to be Ashley and Erica running the regional meet. And so they kind of started preparations for that around the time of nationals last year.
Awesome. And then, as you guys know, Ashley decided to step down from those some certain positions in the WRPF, right? So the your wife Ashley work together, start working on the logistics. Then you come in after the fact. So
Mhm.
take us to that early planning. What was the venue like? How did you guys choose the venue? How did you guys choose the structure? I saw you guys have one day that's combo rack, one day that's monolift. Is that still the case?
We've combined the days, 2 days
Okay.
monolift.
Got you.
Um, so we in the early stages, Ashley was still helping. Came out here. Um, Garrett had flown out here because he'd helped us with a meet that we had just done. There was a meet in October that we put on, and both Ashley and Garrett flew out because that was another thing with the meets that we kind of got to was we at nationals. I noticed something. Sorry to backtrack, but I noticed that a lot of lifters were having a bad time because the standards were much higher at nationals than I think a lot of people were expecting or had become familiar with. So we came home and Erica and I had kind of discussed like, hey, we need to, at the time we had no level 2 judges in Utah. So we need to have one at least at every meet we do, just to kind of set the standard for the lifters, for the meets, just so that when our community does go to these bigger meets, they're not kind of let down. So they had been out here helping us with that meet. And we had a couple venues picked out. We had some bigger kind of club atmospheres we were going with. And then we had gotten a contact to CrossFit OUR, who they wanted us to do it there. It was a giant venue. It would really work well so that we could set up booths, vendors, have all that stuff set up, have really good warm-up rooms. And just the sheer size of it would not have been cost effective anywhere else we would have gone. And they really wanted to kind of cross over and get powerlifting in there so that we could kind of do some cross promotion for both sports. And that's kind of how we ended up at the spot we're going to be at.
Very cool. I love it. I love it. So we are what? A week out? 2 weeks
Yeah,
out?
1 week.
Awesome. So kind of run us through the logistics. The venue's ready. Lifters are going to be combined on a one day, all through monolift, right?
Mm-hmm.
So vendors, etc. What's the name of the venue again?
CrossFit OUR.
Awesome. Very, very cool. So is this in Salt Lake City or is it still in northern Utah?
It's going to be just outside of Salt Lake City. It's within the Salt Lake City metro area.
So centralizing it a bit more,
Yes.
right? Trying to make it so north, south, whatever it is can kind of come together into
Mm-hmm.
that because I mean, Utah has a big powerlifting scene overall, right? I mean,
Yes.
USAPL Raw Nationals is going to be there in Salt Lake City, Utah this
Yes.
year, right? So it's cool to see. It's really its first year, right? Just under
Mm-hmm.
1 year that it's been in the state. And what I've noticed with things like that, what I've talked about in the previous episodes, it's like, for so long, WRPF was just, untested, untested, untested. So places where USAPL market was huge, they didn't come crossover. But we're seeing
Mm-hmm.
more and more of those drug tested lifters coming out, right? And that's where we
Yes.
try to make the availability of the combo rack. But then if we don't have enough interest for that, we combined it. And that's kind of the direction you guys went, right?
Yep. It is. And a lot of people like having the monolift, even if they don't use it. It just looks cooler on the stage and the platform we found, and people really like having it there.
Yeah, I agree. Except the logistic of having to move it around and carry it
Yeah.
is the absolute worst, right?
Yes.
But we get it done.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, man. So regionals coming up. What is beyond that? What do you guys have next for the state of Utah? What's on your guys' mind?
Growth of the sport has always just been kind of what our mission's been. And so we're looking to get into some of these more rural areas. December, we're going to be having a meet in southern Utah down in St. George. So we're just kind of trying to spread that reach. We're trying to kind of team up with some more gyms locally in northern Utah. I've helped facilitate, get some combo racks into some other gyms that have some interest. We just barely had a 20 cap meet at another gym that just started here in northern Utah. So it's starting to grow. And really, we're just trying to help facilitate that. Salt Lake has a healthy scene, so I'm sure we'll still be doing meets there. But really, our focus is on some of these smaller areas and just getting people into the sport, helping it grow, and help bring it accessibility to some smaller areas.
And that's what's huge because, like you said, sure, anyone can drive 2 hours, right, to do the
Mhm.
competition. But what are the chances that all their friends, their family, their loved ones are all also going to be able to make that drive just to watch someone lift? Not very likely.
No.
If you're in those specific areas with smaller meets, whatever that may be, you're going to have such a better environment because all those people, all their loved ones, all their everything is going to be all around them. I see that firsthand with literally the spectation that I have in my smaller in-gym local meets where, one single person will have 6 or 7 people come to
Mhm.
watch them because it's 15 minutes from their house. And that's the benefit of being in a huge, huge city, you know what I mean? Where the majority of everyone's in the big city like Miami, but being able to branch out into those little areas and bring something different and bring something like those smaller, faster paced meets, which I think are also great for
Mhm.
beginners and great for spectators. I think that's very cool and something that's pretty different and I don't hear a lot of people doing or talking about.
We had huge success with this last one that was a 20 cap, and we're looking to kind of our overarching goal is to move to having like 3 to 4 big meets. And then like every other month, we want to do like a 15, 20 cap meet because we can blow through that thing in 3 hours. And the feedback was huge. The lifters loved it. I mean, the meet was quick. We were able to kind of help facilitate more rest times in between, but still so that they could cool down a little bit. But they loved it. Spectators loved it. Everyone stuck around. You didn't see people leaving like I normally would see. Squats get over and everybody's half the place leaves. It wasn't the case. Everybody stayed, and we want to do more of those. And I think that's kind of the key to growing here is to make the meets fun.
And I think that's ultimately what will help continue things within the regionals grow, grow, grow from there, where you build it up in all those small individual areas. And then once a year, everyone pulls together, centralizes, and that's where they all meet and go head to head.
Yeah, that's what we're thinking.
Hell yeah, man. I love it. So let everyone know your guys. I know you guys have a WRPF Instagram, a Utah Instagram page. Let them know where they can find that. Are there any other events on the calendar that are opened up right now? Let them know about those.
So it's WRPF_Utah on Instagram. We will be in 2 weeks opening registration for a meet in October. It'll be October 26th, the last Saturday then. And we'll be opening one up for mid-December. Those will both open up a week after regionals. And they will be accessible from the link tree on our page.
Awesome. Colin, thank you for hopping on. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this. And if you're in Utah or in that area, keep an eye out for more meets coming on the calendar.